Today, we are looking at a story that connects a migration crisis, a military alliance, and one of the most important waterways on the planet. It starts in a small Spanish city in North Africa. Its name is Ceuta. On July the 30th and the 31st, 2026, a couple of days ago, something extraordinary happened. Close to 60,000 migrants crossed from Morocco into Ceuta in just 24 hours. This is the largest crossing ever recorded in this location. Between 18 and 60 people died, most from drowning or from being crushed at the border. By the next evening, most people had already returned to Morocco, under a fast agreement between the two governments. Why did this happen? Well, there are three explanations. First, a Spanish court had recently limited the ability to send migrants back quickly if they arrived by sea. Second, smugglers used social media to spread false information. They told people, cross now, they cannot send you back. And third, the most important part, analysts say this scale of crossing is simply not possible without cooperation from Moroccan police. So the real question becomes, why would Morocco allow this? Well, the Algeria connection. 10 days before the crisis, Spain's Prime Minister visited Algeria. They agreed on a new strategic partnership, more gas, a summit planned for autumn. And Morocco and Algeria are rivals. Their biggest disagreement is over Western Sahara. Morocco has used migration as pressure before. Migration in this region is not only a humanitarian issue, it is also a tool of pressure. Now, let's add another layer. Relations between the United States and Spain are under strain. In February 2026, the United States and Israel launched a military operation against Iran. Spain refused to allow US forces to use bases on Spanish soil for this operation. President Trump at that time reacted strongly. He said he wants to, quote, cut all of trade with Spain. And, well, this is not a new tension. Spain is the only NATO country that refused to raise its defense spending to 5% of GDP. Trump has threatened tariffs over this for more than a year. So, Spain and Washington are not on good terms right now. At the same time, the United States is building a much closer relationship with Morocco. In July 2026, basically a couple of weeks ago, they signed a new agreement with installation of a military training center in southern Morocco, and the US Senate is also preparing a plan to make Morocco its leading military partner in Africa for the next 10 years. There is even talk about moving the headquarters of US Africa Command from Germany, Stuttgart, to Morocco itself. And there's also one more piece. In 2020, Morocco normalized relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords. In exchange, the United States recognized Moroccan control over Western Sahara, and since then, Morocco and Israel have signed more than 40 agreements in defense, drones, and intelligence. Algeria, Morocco's rival, has no relations with Israel. So we see a pattern. The United States, Israel, and Morocco moving closer together. Now, there is something most people missed, a bombshell. In April 2026, a report from the United States Congress described Ceuta and Melilla not as Spanish cities, but as, quote, cities under Spanish administration located in Moroccan territory. This report, written by a close ally of the US Secretary of State, Mario Diaz-Balart, included $40 million of military aid for Morocco. Well, this is not US official policy, it's not legally binding, but the language matters. Administered by is the language Washington normally uses for disputed territory, not for territory that clearly belongs to one country. This is the first time a body of the US government has put this idea in writing. Now let's zoom out to geography. The Strait of Gibraltar is only 14 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. More than 300 ships pass through it every single day. It is one of the most important shipping routes on Earth. Ceuta sits directly on this strait, so does Gibraltar, controlled by the United Kingdom. If the United States builds a stronger military presence in Morocco right next to this strait, that changes the balance of power in the region. Some analysts are already comparing this to the Strait of Hormuz, a place where control over narrow passage can become a source of global tension. We are not there yet, but the pieces are being placed on the board. One final point. Ceuta and Melilla are not only Spanish, they are also European Union territory. But they have a special status.
Ceuta es una ciudad española.
They are outside the EU customs area and outside the full Schengen open border zone, which means that calls to suspend Spain from Schengen by Europe's right were totally baseless and stupid and mainly served internal interests with worries that the extreme right would have tried to use that crisis together with false propaganda for its own interest. Nevertheless, a crisis in Ceuta is not just a Spanish problem. It becomes a European problem, as by losing Ceuta, the whole Union would lose a critical point of control over the most vital and important access point to the Mediterranean. Without such control, the European Union as a whole would lose the capacity to guarantee free access to the Atlantic Ocean for its Mediterranean ports. So, what do we take from all of this? There is no proof that the United States told Morocco to pressure Spain through migration. But look at the pattern. A weaker relationship between Washington and Madrid, a much stronger relationship between Washington and Rabat, and now a written US congressional document questioning Spanish sovereignty over the two cities. Ceuta is not just a border story, it is a preview of how migration, military alliances and control over global choke points are being redrawn right now in real time.